And welcome to the Idle Red Hands. I'm Lyle.
I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Chris.
Welcome back.
Hey! Hello, everybody. It's been a very, very long time, like 3 years almost, I think.
We got a request for you.
Yeah.
Oh,
Of course, from a friend in high school or something. Not my friend, your friend.
Why are your friends in high school asking for me? Oh, cool.
Yeah. Said, yeah, the episodes are okay and all, but when's Chris coming back?
I was that magic, huh? That flavoring.
When's the glue that really holds it all together? I said, aren't you satisfied with the intro? We kept it.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah, I'm so happy.
So you've never left, really.
I'm still a part of it.
So today we're going to be talking about Star Trek Discovery.
Right.
And we're going to be talking about both the TV series and then we're going to talk about Star Trek in general. In particular, what setting we would most like to play in an RPG.
Mm-hmm. And kind of based on, Modifius has a new RPG based in the Star Trek universe, the Star Trek Adventures. So that got us thinking about, what would be the best timeline, what would be the best setting for an RPG.
What a fine coincidence.
Yeah. I wonder what timeline they do use in that.
I don't know. The character sheets look very Next Generation, so I don't know.
I think almost all the games I've played generally go Next Generation, like the MMO and stuff. They all focus on that. Biggest universe, I suppose. All one universe, but
Yeah, I was thinking, is it in the same universe?
the most fleshed out version of the universe, maybe.
So before we start talking about Star Trek, we should probably give the listeners an idea of how big of a Trekker we are. Yeah. And yes, I use Trekker.
I'm biting my tongue.
As I learned, I guess Trekker is more respectful than Trekkie.
Actually, I'm a huge Trek fan, and I have only ever heard Trekkie, so maybe Trekker is something.
I just prefer nerd.
I guess it's a pretty hot topic between fans of the show, whether Trekkie or Trekker is the preferred nomenclature.
Well, Trekker would be someone who treks, and Trekkie would be someone that had Trek done to them, I guess.
Trekkie.
Trek done.
So you're a big fan then, Chris?
Huge. Well,
What does that mean though? What's a huge fan?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I am someone who owns a Star Trek uniform, or I did when I was a kid anyway. Exactly. But I've never been to a convention. That said, if there were a convention locally, I probably would have gone.
Did it original series uniform?
No, Next Generation. I was born and raised in the Next Generation. Yeah, of course, red.
Okay.
Yeah, command. I know yellow shirt. But that said, I am a huge fan, but I kind of died off a little bit after Next Generation. I watched all of DS9 and I really enjoyed it, but I've only seen about half of Voyager and maybe only 3 episodes or so of Enterprise. So maybe I was a huge fan is a better way of putting it.
Okay. Yeah. And we'll find out in this episode if Discovery brings you back.
I hope so. Yeah.
Okay. It's kind of a teaser. You're like, I hope so. I hope it brings you back. All right. So much for teasers. Yeah. How about you, Jeremy?
Yeah, Star Trek, when I was growing up, Star Trek was always what the older kids were into. I guess because in the 70s, it was getting a lot of TV reruns. And there was the Mego dolls. I think I had a neighbor that had the bridge and the bridge playset and the entire set of the crew Mego dolls. And that was amazing to me. And the teleporter, turned around. That was beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But then Star Wars kind of hit me, pretty early. So I was elementary school, and so that kind of just that was my basis for
contest.
Yeah, right.
I think I had Kirk and Spock toys in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't describe myself as a fan.
Yeah, no, I always watched the original series. I mean, that was probably my biggest experience because I watched the 60s Batman, and so 60s Star Trek on TV.
And I just remembered the only toy I had was the old Dr. McCoy from the Next Generation. 120-year-old Dr. McCoy.
Nice.
Really?
I don't remember, somebody just knew that I was a Star Trek fan, so they were going through a toy shop and they said, this one says Star Trek on it. The 120-year-old man.
That's where he's got the big flared trousers.
Did he only appear in the pilot or something?
Yeah, the encounter at Farpoint was and I don't even think, I think it was up to the fans to recognize who it was. They made no reference to who it was. They referenced his name.
Yeah, doesn't he shuffle through the hall going, just talking?
Exactly.
And he's got quite a southern accent.
But he and I went on many adventures.
It's like when I play with Star Wars and nobody wanted to be C-3PO. I was like, oh, what am I supposed to do with that? I've seen, I watched some of Next Generation. Probably most episodes that I've seen of Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, the original series. I think I've seen one episode of Voyager and maybe an episode or two of Enterprise.
Yeah.
I've seen all the original cast movies.
Cool.
And some of the Next Generation movies, and I've watched I've watched the first of the new Star Trek movies. I think it's called Star Trek.
The J.J. Abrams ones.
Yeah, the J.J. Abrams one.
Cool.
Yeah, but I haven't seen the second or third one.
Yeah, so as kind of preparation for this, I watched the pilot of each of the series after the original series, just to kind of get who the characters were in the setup. And I was surprising, even with age, how interesting and kind of entertaining the setups were. The only thing I couldn't get into was Enterprise. I think that was very misguided.
Really? Somebody lent me Next Generation season 1 a few years ago, and I really couldn't get through it. I found it really painful.
I think, I think most of them start off pretty weak, most of the Star Wars things, in memory, because I tried to watch Deep Space Nine when it first came out.
Yeah.
But I dumped it maybe a season and a half in, and I just thought this isn't holding my interest well enough.
Right.
But I went back to it maybe just like a year ago or so, and after I got through that first hump and they got into like the episodes with an overarching plot, then I really loved it. It's actually my second favorite now.
I was surprised at the kind of interconnectedness and how each series kind of referenced like its starting point, kind of wanted to connect you with somebody you already knew. Like Picard was in the first episode of Deep Space Nine. Yeah. So they did a lot of that connecting, and I didn't think there was so much of that because I thought the kind of timeline and plots were a little bit of a mess. But it was interesting.
By the end of Deep Space Nine, half the cast was back on it.
Yeah.
And Chief O'Brien, that's his name.
Oh yeah.
Oh okay. Yeah. You just have to throw out his actor name.
Yeah, that's right. And that's the only one you get out of me today. I'm terrible with actor names. So.
Right. Right. So we have one fan, and I don't hate Star Trek, but I guess 2 non-fans?
Yeah, 2 objective observers.
Sure, yeah. So let's just break down the review, our review of Star Trek Discovery. We'll start off with how Trek is it? Or how Star Trek is it?
Yeah, I mean, compared to the original series and Next Generation, it feels very different. It feels more like it's a product of the J.J. Abrams era, where they're trying to bring people in to give them kind of action and suspense, and they're not having long conversations, and they're not very intellectual. They're just kind of moving through things. It's more character based. It's more character motive based, and I felt that it was more connected to the kind of recent rethinking of Star Trek, and just feel, and maybe that's just because the production quality is so high as well that kind of takes you out.
Well, that's actually the point that I wanted to say. Is I think a lot of the stuff I've seen online is people complaining about. Imagine that, the internet complaining about something, about how not Trek it is.
Right.
And a lot of what people are saying is that it doesn't. People are fighting too much. The crew don't get along, which I think was one of Roddenberry's original things set in stone. The crew has to get along. And it's a lot more emotional and dramatic, less intellectual. But one of the things that I thought really made it feel not so Trek to me is the look. It looks really modern. They use a lot of dynamic and close-up kind of camera angles that are constantly in motion. They have really dramatic lighting on things. They lens flares everywhere. Surprise, J.J. Abrams.
Right.
And just really, really high production value, which I think is different from the way that Trek has been going that direction. They increased as it kept going on, but it's a pretty big leap. But that's something that I can't hate on, making the show look better, even if it makes it feel a little bit less like the original. It's good for me. But as it's gone on up now into the 5th episode, I feel pretty Trek about it. They're kind of debating the morality of the things that they're doing. They're in a difficult situation, and that's kind of what Star Trek has felt like to me. So
okay.
Yeah, I think quite Trek.
Yeah, I guess honestly I don't care about how Trek it is, but I do know that a lot of people do care. And it feels enough, I suppose. I can accept if you put the name Star Trek on it, it's Star Trek.
Yeah.
I would say I would agree with the people where the dynamics is very different. Like there aren't a family. Even in Deep Space Nine, where they're all the main characters might not be as cozy as in Next Generation or the original series, but Sisko has a son there, so they have that family dynamic, and it seems to be pretty absent in Star Trek Discovery. But I'm fine with that. It's a different way to approach it. I would say the look. I started liking the look, but then liked it less and less because it looked jarring. And I think you were talking about the lighting is different.
That's one of the things that I think is one of the biggest changes. And it's something that I've noticed over the period of Trek is that the lighting has really changed with the mood and the style of it and gotten better. Like the original Trek was, the original series was lit like a soundstage, bright lights, pretty even lighting. And then you get into TNG and it's not overly done, but it's lit like a living room. There's just light everywhere. It's balanced. It's soft.
Carpeting.
Yeah, exactly. Leather seats and everything. You get the DS9, and it starts to get pretty good. I compared it to like a sitcom. They have dramatic mood lighting, but it's not overly done, and it suits the different parts of the show. A little bit on the dark side, but that was part of the story.
Right.
But this one, it's like a horror movie. I mean, the rooms, of course, they have a diegetic reason for it. In the story, there's a reason why all the rooms are dark. The captain's eyes are weird.
Oh, right.
But you go into some rooms like the engineering room, and it's just this pale blue light that just shines on the characters, drains all the humanity out of them.
Yeah, and they do a lot of close-ups, and it's a very unflattering light. And then when you have that unflattering light, plus the close-ups, and I don't know what they're going with. And we were talking about that when we reviewed Stranger Things, where very minimalistic makeup and kind of harsh lighting, and I see that in Star Trek Discovery, and that seems a bit jarring. Where you see the uneven skin, and I don't know, they're trying to make the people look more human, they're trying to make the Federation look humanistic, but maybe that's a better word since there's a lot of alien species, and less idealistic, grittier maybe is what they're going for. But I mean, there's gritty, and then there's like stained teeth. Gritty. Like the one character, Stamets, has brown teeth, and you're starting to think, why does he have brown teeth? Like his partner? I don't know if they're married, so has very white teeth, and that's kind of, you would just expect that in a TV show, and there he has these brown teeth, and he's brushing his teeth as that scene, and all I'm thinking is, okay, you clearly brushed your teeth. So why is it brown? And I think it's just the lighting is just really bringing out the stains.
Mirror Universe version has brown teeth instead of a goatee. I think that's kind of an attempt to introduce more dynamism into the show, in that I feel like they're trying to push it more action-y, like the J.J. Abrams movies, but they still keep a little bit of a slow pace, and I think there's a little bit of a gap there. I think in the third episode, was that the one where they saved the mining colony? Or was that the fourth?
Third, I think that was the third. Yeah, because after the
third episode, they thank you. They
no, it's the fourth.
Yeah, it's the fourth.
Okay, thank you too. In that episode, they jump over a colony, and then all these Klingon raiders are going to come at him, and then they jump away and leave a bomb behind, and explodes. And they put all the elements in there. They got the dynamic lighting. They got camera angles like skewing left and right all over the place.
They got the acne, which is really important.
Exactly, it's huge importance. The music is swelling and stuff. The cameras are zooming in, and it just the pacing just doesn't quite sell that kind of drama that they're trying to put into it. But I mean, maybe I hope they get better at it, and I can see that they are trying, which is cool. But
I thought just like keeping the focus on how Trek is it. I thought, for example, that big battle between the starships was very Star Trek to me.
I thought so too.
Because I looked at the ships, I thought, I really like the special effects. And then when the battle starts, I don't really like Star Trek combat. It just seems kind of boring. You got these big ships that just like fire phasers. So I was like, yep, that's Star Trek.
Yep.
Yeah. And the way the lead characters do everything, that's very Star Trek to me.
Very.
Oh, right.
And I do like the theme song, which has elements of the original the original series. I like it. I thought they incorporated that very well, and I like kind of the callbacks in the opening portion of each episode. You see the old communicator.
Oh, yeah. Which they haven't used yet, have they?
Yeah, and I'm thinking, I was like, I don't recall them ever using those things.
Right.
But I'm starting to see some of the different things. Like they have in the opening, they have what looks like a flower with a pistil kind of floating or open. I wonder if that's like the mouth part to that tardigrade. Just something I was thinking when I watched last night.
Oh, it could be,
Maybe,
but
I don't know. But that's already gone now, so
Yeah.
who knows?
oh, and we should say there's going to be lots of spoilers.
Yes, right. Up to episode 5. Right?
Yeah. So you wouldn't be really listening to this to see if you should watch Star Trek Discovery. You'd be listening to this to see if we agree with you
Yes.
or disagree with you. And of course, our brilliant insights, like Chris is talking about the lighting. When you mentioned about the horror movie lighting, I was like, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Because I was wondering why. Like, you even see the eyeliner, and I know maybe some cosmetics you should be able to see such as or know that it's makeup, such as lipstick,
Right.
but not really eyeliner. That's supposed to be accentuating your features with sort of secretly. But then with extreme close up in the lighting, you can see that it's not.
Yeah.
They're not eyebrows. It's eyeliner.
Yeah, and there's no way that's accidental. A show with production value this high, even with something half the production value, they would have a professional makeup artist. So that's obviously something done on purpose.
Yeah, but why would they make that choice?
And that's a really good question.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder if they're trying to show it being less idyllic, more human, because that Tilly character, I find her really interesting because she's not the best looking person. She has she's got this bump that's always covered up in foundation on her face. She's a little bit overweight in the tight uniform. It's noticeable.
Right.
And I think that's cool. I mean, I like the character for it. And I'm wondering if that's why she's in there.
Maybe. I'm wondering if they just underestimated the quality of TVs now.
Or if they saw how popular Barb was from Stranger Things and all that fan art, and they said, we got to get a chubby redhead into this show because the internet's going to
There you
love
go.
her.
I think you've solved it. She's we won't get too much into specific characters, but there was something when Next Generation started, and they cast Patrick Stewart to be Jean-Luc Picard, and one reporter asked, "Hey, it's in the future, haven't they cured baldness yet?" or he said something like, "You'd think that they would have cured baldness by then." And the response was, well, in the future, people don't care. So I guess people don't care about your complexion in the future. or they're so busy that they never learned how to apply makeup or something. Or maybe the transporter. It can never get that right.
There you go.
It assembles all your molecules and your DNA fine, but then your makeup's a little bit smudged.
Art and science.
There you go. What do you think about setting Discovery as a prequel?
I had the same problem I had with the Star Wars prequels as far as the continuity of the technology and the look of things is so jarring. It doesn't quite match. They have, full body projection holograms that they're walking around and talking to, and just the look of the bridge and things. It's very different. And I guess with Enterprise, the TV show, they tried to do that where they kept things as simple as possible, even though they had bigger budgets than they did in the 60s. But that was the first thing that kind of bothered me is it's going to look so beautiful, and I'm having trouble understanding that it comes before everything else I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Overall, sorry, just kind of whatever. Is how I feel about it. But the thing, like the look of the technology has never been a big issue for me. It's just a different project. It's a different art style.
Right.
Oh, that's a good point.
And I know that's important to some people. There's a lot of people who really reacted poorly to the way the Klingons have changed their look. I don't mind. The thing that I don't like about it being a prequel is that the writers take too many cues from other things and try to tie it into it. I would much prefer to see new stories and new ideas rather than a cameo by Harry Mudd.
Right.
He's a cool character. That's fine, but I know what's going to happen with him. When he's there, I know this character isn't going to die. He shows up later. I think there's a bit too much of a temptation for the writers to just take those threads and try to build it into the story that we all know is coming. And maybe ties their hands a little bit too.
Yeah. I agree. No, I personally, I don't really care so much, but you could have set it after Voyager, I guess, is the last one in the series.
I think so, yeah.
So you could have set it at Voyager and attracted somebody like me, a non-fan, through the special effects and great stories or characters. But the people that care about Star Trek and care about canon and continuity, they've kind of set themselves up where they are going to make mistakes that they have to explain away. So they kind of box themselves in. And yeah, I think the only reason that you would want to do a prequel, I guess one of two things is, hey, Klingons are cool and we want to show them fighting Klingons. But that was probably the pitch. Imagine before they made peace with the Klingons and they're at war. So Star Trek at war, like it. And then they can drop in all the references to like Spock's parents, like Harry Mudd, and think that's really cool to put in these Easter eggs, which people seem to like with these nostalgia projects. I don't think it has to be a nostalgia project. It can be its own thing and just part of the Star Trek universe, because people are used to series adding to the story as opposed to doing retreads.
Yeah, I agree. And they've already, even, I haven't looked at it very closely, but they've already made some continuity errors. For example, in the original series, tribbles were discovered in that series, right? There's a tribble on Lorca's desk in the first scene we see.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah. There's the whole thing about the Klingons, how they look. Again, like I said, that's reimagining it art style, so I don't mind that.
Yeah.
But it also locks out a lot of things. Ferengi, for example. I think they're a really cool race, but they're not discovered until the Next Generation. The Romulans, they're in like a Cold War period now. So I think in the original series, they meet a Romulan and say, it's the first time we've seen them in like 200 years. So does that mean we're not going to see them in this series, or they're going to see them and then forget to tell anybody about it? Or
Yeah.
I noticed just watching the pilots of each of the series that continuity is a bit of a problem. That people keep saying, "Oh, this series retconned this series retconned that," so the timeline is a bit of a mess. But maybe that's a good thing because it gives a little bit of freedom to the writers of a prequel.
And actually, I'd say go for it, guys. Forget continuity, just make good stories.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and for somebody like me, I don't know the canon as well as a hardcore fan. But again, you can make a good story way in the future, after Voyager, as opposed to before Enterprise. When I saw Harry Mudd, I'm like, all right, I know him. I know who that is.
Hey, that's Dwight from The Office. Oh no.
I was like, hey, is that Office guy? And I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I really liked the actor. I've never seen The Office, so I don't know him. But
how do you like? Oh, you liked him in that episode?
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I thought he did a good job. And actually, I was kind of disappointed. I felt the same as you. It's like, oh, it's Mudd, like that. If it were just a new character, I think I would have been more interested.
Well, absolutely. It would have been more suspenseful.
Yeah.
Because there you go. Oh, I know Harry Mudd. Yeah, he's bad news. Careful, Lorca. He's bad news. So, and there's a case where, hey, you have an Easter egg and you introduce an interesting character, but everybody knows what this character's like. So the audience, even somebody like me, who's like a very passive fan, I suppose, but I know what this guy is and I know what he represents. So there's like no suspense with him. So you're like, oh, okay, yeah. That's how they're going to reveal that he's kind of, a dirty, rotten scoundrel.
Right. At least put his name last, Don't give his name right away. At the very end. You haven't seen the last of Harry Mudd.
Yeah. Or he introduced himself as like Harold or Harrison. Harrison. Yeah, just his name. Yeah, and then he's like, Harry Mudd. You'll remember Harry Mudd. And like, okay.
Yeah, and especially with the tone of Discovery, he's an odd choice to include because he was kind of a campy, over-the-top kind of original series appearance. It was always a light, kind of whimsical episode if you knew he was showing up. So it's a weird thing to include when things are kind of dark and we're so focused on the war and the conflict.
I don't think that's very odd with Star Trek at all. Thinking back to Deep Space Nine, they had that big war timeline going on, and it was generally a darker show than Next Generation, actually quite a bit darker than Next Generation. But they had a lot of side tracks that they went on. They had like alternate time ones. They had the Mirror Universe ones, which I never really liked, but they had a couple of whimsical ones. I remember one where like the doctor and the engineer they got shrunk down to like 1 inch tall, and they're crawling around inside a ship, like moving giant tubes around and things like that. It was ludicrous episode, but it's right in the middle of the war.
Yeah.
So
interesting. Yeah.
I think that's a common Star Trek thing, which I never liked the mirror episodes. But what are you gonna do?
Yeah, it's hard though when you have some character like Lorca, who's very serious, and then throwing in the whimsical character to play off of him.
Yeah, I suppose. But I mean, that's the thing. Like, they didn't really do Cisco because he was the serious captain. They left it to the more comedy-esque characters.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But it would have been like Harry Mudd meets Sylvia Tilly, the redhead. Something. All right. Well, what do you think of the story? And I guess we'll break it down into two parts: the overarching story and the specific episodes. Okay.
Well, so far so good. Kind of to take away from what I said earlier, to argue against myself. I said before it's locked up being part of a prequel, but they're actually taking a pretty wide story for it. This spore technology allows them to transport anywhere in the galaxy or anywhere in the universe, I suppose.
Right.
But and that's a technology that doesn't exist in the later series. So.
That was kind of lost on me as somebody who doesn't follow Star Trek religiously. Yeah. In that I know that they have warp drives, which is like hyperspace and that. So it's pretty fast.
Yeah.
So and they do sell it by saying, hey, this is a revolutionary technology and we can get anywhere instantaneously.
Yeah.
But in the pilot, we even see like ships showing up pretty quickly. So it's hard to see how much of a strategic advantage it gives them when it's instantaneous versus almost instantaneous. And I suppose if somebody knew about the warp technology, so they go, oh, to get from here to here would actually take you this long, and they do it in a second. I don't know. Like
it's much different speed-wise.
Okay.
Like at warp speed, it would still take them a matter of minutes to travel across, say, like our solar system. So you put that out in universal scales. You got days, weeks between planets and stuff versus instantaneous.
Yeah, just, if it's contained though, because when they put out the Klingon beacon and they put out their hail to the other ships, it didn't seem to take the ships that long to get there when you're watching it. So maybe they needed to establish, somebody like me, more context. So I'm just relying on them. Yeah, okay, instantaneously. I guess that's a huge advantage. And they talk a lot. So they're like, okay, it's to go to the mine, we need to use this technology. And then you're like, why don't you just go to warp drive right now instead of talking about how you can get there using the technology?
That a couple times.
Yeah, just like, let's debate it. I'm gonna go to my room and think about it for 3 hours.
We can't use a spore drive, so we're just gonna sit here instead.
Yeah. So why don't you? Okay, just start warping, and maybe you'll get there, first.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's as with any sci-fi show, they travel at the speed of plot more than anything else. But
yeah. Why don't they just have Gendry just take it? We have this spore technology, or this Gendry guy who seems to be able to carry the ship anywhere he wants to.
Right. Well, I think that the big advantage with the spore technology, 100% vegan, so you don't have to worry about anybody being offended.
I didn't think of that angle. Yeah. It's the Star Trek for millennials.
Well.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen any leather. Or maybe the Klingons have leather, but the uniforms, there's no belts and that. But that's actually a Star Trek thing. It's always been like that, except for the boots. I haven't really noticed the footwear. But really, after the original series, you don't really notice the footwear. This has nothing to do with the story.
I'm engrossed here, Lyle. Tell me more. What kind of footwear did they wear in the original series?
I like little boots.
What was I going to say? Well, it was probably because of the close-ups. The camera's right on their faces. You just never get a chance to see their feet.
Yeah. Pan down to the feet.
Come on, fan service. That's what we're demanding here.
Well, what about the foot fetishes? I'm fine with the war storyline. It certainly gives it a different dynamic, or it gives it a similar dynamic to Deep Space Nine, which kind of revived that show. I guess they got bored with it, so they thought, hey, let's make it a war.
Yeah.
And put it at the center of it. So I'm fine with that. I'm wondering if it would actually limit the plots.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do have like this big war story, and you have like the captain going, don't take me away from the war, or sideline me, but it might limit their ability to have, hey, let's go to this new planet and discover something, which seemed to be a big part of at least 4 of the Star Trek series.
Right.
For sure, yeah. That is, going out and exploring space, brave new worlds, and all that stuff is very central to Star Trek. But yeah, same thing. I like the overarching plot structure. I think it's cool. I think when Next Generation did 3 or 4 episode long runs, it was great. I liked Deep Space Nine for the war part of it. So I think a lot of people online were saying that that's one of the reasons it doesn't feel very Trek to them. But to be honest, that doesn't bother me. Cool.
Yeah,
go for it.
Yeah, I think, and this gets into like the longer storyline. The decision to focus on the one character, I think they're going to abandon that pretty quickly.
Yeah,
I hope so.
Yeah.
I suppose we'll get into it more in the characters for it, but in general, I think the characters in the show are really well done, and I want to see more of them all.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't until the more recent episode that you saw much backstory of anybody or any sort of like small arcs or drama. So yeah, I think kind of taking the focus off of Michael might be a good thing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, now breaking it down by episode, what do you think of the pilot? When I say pilot, I'm talking about episodes 1 and 2.
I saw them backwards.
Oh.
You saw 2 and 1?
Yeah. I made a mistake when titling the video files on my computer. And yeah.
Okay.
Oops. So yeah, I saw them backwards. Why is the war not started? Is this a flashback? Oh. Yeah.
So what'd you think about that? Like, did you like the build up to the war?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I real good podcasting. Yep, all finished.
Good.
I really liked the opening 2 episodes. I was really positive about the show afterwards. I was excited. It was really good. I think they did a good job of establishing the story where it sits in the universe. Very little detail, but they gave the right kind of mood and feel as to this is what the show is going to be like. And I really liked it.
Yeah, I think they set the tone well. I didn't like, focusing on the single character and her, not being the captain of the ship. I thought, maybe eventually of a ship, but I thought that was a little odd. And also the fact that we learn who these people are, we follow this crew, and then the ship's destroyed, they evacuate, and we're only going to see a few of those people was a little bit frustrating because I was already starting to want to see that group of people, and they had a nice dynamic in that first episode.
Yes,
yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, definitely the captain, like Michelle Yeoh's character and Martin Green's character, did have a nice dynamic. And then when you see like Michelle Yeoh's character gets killed off, you're like, oh, okay. It was actually my favorite character of the
Yeah.
I liked like the special effects. I liked the spacewalk.
Yeah, that was great.
I think the pilot did suffer from the fact that it built up the Klingons as this warrior race, and then the warrior race just gets their ass handed to them constantly. Like when she accidentally kills this warrior, because you present him, like, he looks awesome, or she. I don't know what that Klingon warrior was, a male or female. And then she accidentally stabs him with his own weapon. You're like, wow, okay, I guess they're not too badass.
Yeah. They in official Trek lore, Klingons are one of the strongest races for it, and it's really weird because it's like humans, Vulcans, Romulans, Borg, and then Klingons are the toughest ones. But Lorca and the Ash guy just beat the crap out of 2 prison guards in the last episode. So, I mean, Trek has always played with that, but yeah.
And she was really sure that she killed him, or that she killed the Klingon she encountered on the ship during the spacewalk.
Don't they have 2 hearts?
They have 2 of almost everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, so right away she's like, oh yeah, I accidentally killed this guy. Definitely killed him. 100% no, I killed him. Like, okay. Really?
So it's like you stabbed him twice in both hearts.
He was really sharp.
I don't like the look of the Klingons, and I'll talk more about that later when we talk about the characters. But the quasi-religious thing was interesting. That ship looked pretty cool that they had. and the prophecy. I was like, oh, okay, so you're going to unify them. The Klingons. So I can see that being pretty dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to disagree with you guys a little bit about getting invested in the characters that all got killed off, because I don't, at least on the Federation side, because I don't think anybody really did anything except for Michelle Yeoh, Martin Green, and Doug Jones's character.
I agree.
Yeah.
Hardly anybody else had a speaking role.
But they smiled. Yeah.
Gorgeous.
It is strange though to see crews in major positions on the bridge and just like, oh yeah, we're not going to see them anymore. And I wanted the Daft Punk face.
I wanted more of that guy too.
Yeah, that would have been nice to see.
I think they actually when there was damage to the ship, they said she's injured, get her to the med bay. So it was a girl.
They have an android on the new one too, but it's not as good an android.
No,
it's not. It's more like a wire 70s android.
Could they have an android? Because they have to explain that. Because if you have Data was revolutionary, then what are these other ones?
Oh yeah, I just say android because that's what she looks like.
Yeah, so they're gonna.
It could just be like some head apparatus or something with a heads-up display.
It's kind of a tangent, but they have a lot of that in this show. There's the bridge officer on there who's got the metal thing around her eye. There's androids on both ships.
That's because she got injured.
Didn't she have it in the original?
No, no, she didn't. In the first episode,
that's why she hates
first pilot. Yeah,
Michael Burnham.
I see.
Yeah, she had to shave the whole side of her head, and she just sneers at her.
I didn't realize. I saw the shaved head part, but for some reason I was thinking that eye thing was there the whole time.
No, she must have been really damaged.
I take it back then.
And probably the thing I disliked the most about the pilot was the spiritual connection to her Vulcan father.
Oh, Sarek?
Yeah, Sarek, where he's giving him these advice. And
the intergalactic communication meditation thingamajiggy.
Yeah. That did undermine her kind of strength a bit, where she's like, wow, this is a big decision. I'll be right back. And then she runs I got to open a diplomatic channel, and talk to my adopted father. That was little.
And I think that destroyed the relationship with the captain, because your adoptive father says, hey, do this. Then she tells the captain, no, we should do this. And the captain disagrees. Oh, okay, I'll just do the Vulcan death grip on you. Yeah. Like, what? And I just... Like,
neck pinch death grip is a total different move.
Oh, does the neck pinch. Yeah. That just came out of the blue, and I think it really felt out of character.
You'd mentioned that before I actually watched the opening episodes. And that didn't bother me, actually. I saw that as part of her character, and it didn't feel too strange. It gets a little bit into the character, but I saw that kind of unthinking spontaneity out of her. That seemed to be a big part of her character. We'll get into that more in the character section, but it didn't shock me.
Well, there's spontaneous, and then there's like punching somebody in the face.
Yeah, and that's actually what I meant.
Yeah. So. No, but I think that there's a difference where somebody's a bit rash, and then somebody knocks out their mentor.
Yes.
And with very little build up or thinking. So I mean,
but if she believes,
or even second guessing. Yeah, but
if she believes she's saving everyone.
Yeah, but your adoptive father tells you do this. You tell the captain. The captain's like, no, we shouldn't do that. Like, you're not going to second guess yourself if that person is truly your mentor. If that person's just the captain. But they're really trying to sell. They in the 2 episodes they try to sell that Michelle Yeoh is the big mentor. Yeah. And then in later episodes, like episode 5, they try to reinforce, yep, the captain was a big mentor. Yeah. But you're like, nah, you destroyed it. I don't really buy it so much. I buy that you're always going to listen to your father, and it's going to override everybody else. And I think it's going to weaken anybody else. I mean, you can have like this character arc where she develops a relationship with, let's say, Captain Lorca, to the point where Sarek is going to give her advice, and then Lorca's going to disagree with it, and she will second guess. Yeah. And maybe Sarek isn't always wise, and that's fine, but then Michelle Yeoh just has to be presented as, hey, just your captain.
Yeah, I totally see where you're coming from for it, but I feel like because they had such a close relationship, the drive to save her and save the rest of the crew was stronger, and that's why maybe she went that way. Like I said, it didn't shock me, and I accept it as part of the character, and maybe that's why I feel the way I do about her character.
Yeah,
but
maybe if like it had been reversed, where you see like a parent might
Michelle, you just punches it.
no, but if Michael Burnham was like in a position of authority, and it's a panicking first officer, and he's like, no, knocks the first officer out because you want to save them.
Yeah.
But when it's your mentor, there's a reason that person is your mentor, and one of them is the wisdom that they're passing on to you. So, yeah. But I do take your point. One thing that a lot of people didn't like, which I didn't have a problem with, was the two main characters going on, transporting.
Yeah, I'm there.
Transporting or teleporting?
That was dumb. Transporting.
Transporting onto the Klingon ship and then planting that bomb, and I was fine with that. I thought that was very Trek.
The bomb was a different thing.
They teleported a warhead into
they
a corpse.
teleported a warhead, and they were going to capture. Sorry,
Right.
they were going to capture Takuvma.
Takuvma.
Sorry, silly
Get
me.
it right.
It was
Egg on my face.
a great opportunity to showcase the talents of an amazing martial arts star, and the fight was nothing.
I think that's kind of good. It's too much like the actress than it is like the character.
Yeah, definitely.
No, but I'm sorry. I'm in the camp that was just stupid. I mean, come on. They didn't figure out red shirt technology, but yet or what?
But that's always been. It's like from the original series. It was, hey, new planet. Let's send the 5 most important people on the ship down to the planet and just see what happens.
And that's the thing.
But that's always been the thing. And it's also
when you say the 5 most important people, it's not. It's like the 3 most important people. You got the captain, Bones, Spock, and then a red shirt, and that's who dies. I don't know.
But it also follows movie logic, like especially action movie logic, where the characters that are speaking have to be there for the big beats.
Oh yeah, and I totally.
So that was a big action beat. So you have 3 characters that really had any lines.
Yeah.
So the third one was Saru. Like, was he going to tip the balance?
No. Don't get me wrong. You're absolutely right. The captain and Michael should have gone, and that's very tricky. It would be strange if they didn't. Why it was just the 2 of them?
Because they didn't want to endanger anybody else.
And that's dumb.
Well, you just said it was fine for
her motivation
for Michael to death pinch. Sorry, I guess. Sorry,
shoot her in the face.
I guess death was the word you were taking issue with. To do the Vulcan pinch to her mentor because she wanted to save her life, but then you can't see the captain and the first officer not wanting to endanger anybody, so doing something very bold.
Yes, that does sit as strange with me. And they're a military organization, so that they wouldn't take along additional members, a squad for safety, especially when you're going direct into the bridge, the central area of an enemy thing, and you have to catch somebody alive.
Well, the Klingons didn't have any weapons. Maybe they knew that. Didn't they? They had the phasers, and they were like shooting the Klingons, and the Klingons just seemed to present their chests to get shot. Then it was like get into hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah, but then they had weapons.
Well, I mean, the
really sharp swords.
Phasers are the great equalizer.
It's true.
So we're going to have phasers. They're going to have apparently nothing. I think we're okay.
They brought a batleth to a phaser fight.
What do you think of the final decision? I guess it was a decision by Michael to shoot.
That was great. Yeah, I saw that as being right in line with the character that was growing in my mind at the time. Yeah.
So her reacting, you think, then to the captain's death is the reason that she switched from stun to kill?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was really quick. I almost didn't notice it because I'm like, wait, he's dead? How's he dead? Oh, yeah. So it took me. It was like the second time that I watched it, I'm like, oh, okay, I can see when that happened.
And I really like the storytelling of that, how they just had the little blue light
Yes,
switch to red.
yeah, very
really
small.
subtle, really strong. I thought it was well done.
Right.
Yeah. Or not.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you have a character that's rash, but also half Vulcan, and you're like, okay, which one is? Was there a conflict here, or was there not a conflict? I don't know. Like the Vulcan would have been the logical thing to do would be to take the captain anyway.
Yeah, I agree. That was, I don't know why.
No, sorry, not the maybe
Takuvma.
Takuvma isn't a captain, but the spiritual leader, the prophet. Yeah. And you would think that would maybe get the most revenge in the long run. I don't know.
It would have made the most sense, for sure.
So
Yeah, because it was her whole thinking that said, he can't be a martyr, he can't be killed, because their original idea was just to blow up the ship.
Yeah.
And and they also, before that mission, they did kind of lead up with Michael saying, Michael and the captain's conversation was, this is your fault, you need to kind of, and I think she felt responsibility to kind of undo that, and maybe that made it, a little more logical why it was just the two of them going over there to kind of fix that mess that she was
in.
Yeah.
Thanks, but no.
Just trying.
Yeah. Now, some people have said that episode 3 is really the true start, and the pilot is the prequel to the real start of the series, because it starts like the previous Star Trek series, where you got the person going on to the ship, or in Deep Space Nine's case, the space station, and meeting the people that you're going to be interacting with.
Yeah, I wouldn't have minded it starting there, and then they have a Michael movie that you could, because I think if that character could have kind of gotten across kind of what she had already been through, and I think she did. I can't be very objective because I saw those first 2 episodes, but by episode 3, I think if it would have started there, and then you could have been able to go back and get that backstory, that would have been interesting. I would have been much more interested in that. It was kind of a jump. It kind of like felt, even though chronologically, she was sentenced at the end of 2, and then 3 she's on a prison ship. I really would have liked it starting there, just to give all the characters a little more even. Yeah, just to be a little more even-handed with the characters.
I see what you're saying, and it's certainly one way to tell that story. But since they really emphasize, the Federation's only mutineer, I think a lot of viewers would get antsy, and it's like show it, don't tell me.
Yeah, but I think what I would have imagined how terrible a mutineer she was would have been interesting. And maybe that's why you don't do it out of order, because like, wow, this would have been amazing, and then they showed it was okay.
And then you had, they did bring some people back. They brought Saru back, and the woman who doesn't have many lines, with metal on her face.
Right.
I think she had one line, or did she just have a dirty look?
She's definitely had several dirty looks.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
So she's just I think I actually like the way they did it, where now you bring in the discovery in the 3rd episode. It's a little bit different, but it's not too jarring. And then you introduce the characters that they're going to interact with. It also allows them to spend or almost blow their budget on the first 2 episodes to really draw people in. And if you notice, like episode 3 was almost like a play. There's there's 2 or 3 locations that they're at.
Yeah. I wonder if there's any purpose behind the series plans to be in the middle of a war, and you've got this Lorca who's a very warlike captain. He's going after everything, trying to do it. But Giorgio, Philippa, Michelle Yeoh, she was a much more traditional Star Trek captain. We come in peace, kind of exploring thing. And I wonder if that's used as a contrast.
I think so.
To say this is still the Star Trek universe, but this guy you're going to meet, he's
and it's 6 months in.
Right.
So it's just showing you, hey, it is going to be a different Star Trek, but here's why. We're going to explain it, and then you're going to get to, in the middle of the war, or 6 months into the war. So people are acting a little bit differently. That maybe they're more on edge, and they're probably going to play up. I know they're going to play up post-traumatic stress and things like that.
I hope so. And I think they've started playing with the idea of the morals of the Federation. This kind of high-minded, everybody's good and peaceful and prime directive. How that stands up in a war.
Yeah.
And I think they started not even started. They got deep into that in Deep Space Nine, pun intended. And I hope they go there with this as well. It's good.
Yeah. Did you like the episode though? Episode 3?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was.
Yeah. It kind of spoiled my review of all the episodes. It's like I watched them. I don't hate the episodes, but I'm never hooked.
Yes.
Like they might put something that's a bit of a cliffhanger, but I'm just not enough. Yeah.
It's like I said with the pacing with the episode where they were trying to launch the bomb and it just didn't do that. It doesn't grab me. It's got good elements in it. It's well made. It's well written, but it feels slow. It feels a little bit cold. And I've caught myself a couple of times like fighting the urge to like check my phone while I'm watching the episode for it. And I know that I won't miss that much because the pacing is too slow.
Is it episode 3 where that's where they capture the creature?
Yes, episode 3 is where they go on to the broken ship and they find the creature.
Yeah.
They reveal that it's been captured at the very end.
Yeah. No, I liked that part of it. It was almost like a horror movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool. And then they completely throw that away and they're like, oh, he's very gentle. But the way it was presented in episode 3, it was like hunting the Klingons. And you had the one Klingon going, be quiet.
Is he shushing us? I thought that was great.
I really like that. But then you just flip the switch or you go 180 in the next episode. Like, he's actually just reacting to this. And
sweet little creature.
Yeah. So why didn't it tear everybody apart?
That's the thing. I was like, okay, you're stabbing it. It's in pain. Why hasn't it torn through your ship now too?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, Ripper was just a term of endearment. that wasn't necessarily based on the murders.
By episode 5, they're like talking about it in such saccharine ways. It's like, oh, poor Ripper. It's like, that name.
And just with that creature, there's just too many jumps in intuition. Like, it must be able to do this, and it's tracking. Now it's in distress and it's gonna die soon. Next jump.
Yes. And then it does. What do you know? Is there a term for it? I know breaking the fourth wall is where you kind of let onto the audience that it's in a show. Is there a breaking the third wall kind of thing where you break from the seriousness of it? Because they seem to do that a lot in these episodes. Like, for example, they're studying the creature and they're talking about it, and then the one Tilly girl, she just says, guys, this is awesome. And it just kind of breaks away from the script. And I'm trying to think of another example, and I had it earlier, but I've forgotten now. But they do that a couple of times.
I think they're just trying to lighten it, give you a tone. It's pretty tough to like characters when they're always tense and on edge and at each other's throats. So now they have to show them being a bit more human and be more positive with each other or developing these like friendships and relationships.
And I don't want to get down. I actually do like it that they do that. And I remember the other one was when the line, "What are you doing with your mouth?" Stamets. He says something like how the creature is caught and how it's a big disaster and everything like that. And obviously she disagrees that everything is a disaster. So she does this face where it's like her lips are tensing because she wants to yell at him like that. And he just stops and says, "What are you doing with your mouth?" And I thought it was really good acting on her part to emote that. And then they just call it out right away. And I thought that was fun. I liked it.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I guess you're going to have the comic relief in the Tilly character who's been described as the soul. I actually think it's pretty, So I didn't mind episode 3, but then when it got to episode 4, and then the intuition leaps were just too much.
I can see that. Yeah, same deal.
I mean, I know it's science fiction, and there's kind of that tired counter argument. Well, it's in space with aliens, and you're like, yeah, but I mean, it's got to make sense within that universe.
Agreed.
And then it's been established that very brilliant minds or two very brilliant minds worked on this type of drive. And then just looking at this creature for a few minutes, able to determine that, the way it reacts to the mushrooms, it must be able to connect to the drive and then be able to act as a guide, and it'll be totally safe. And you're just like, well, it's kind of established that this is actually a really difficult problem. So, I mean, they haven't presented Michael Burnham as like some sort of autistic savant or something that can just kind of look at stuff and count toothpicks, and it's like, 350 toothpicks. Oh, and that creature is going to be able to get, that's the solution to this problem or something like that.
I agree. Yeah, it's not so much that they made the discoveries in and of themselves, but I think it was too quick.
Yeah. And then Stamets in episode 5 is like, it's going to be humans, and hey, I'll just do this and check myself with this. So now he's got the power of instant intuition or something.
I wonder if it's permanent or not. I don't know.
Instant genius.
Did you see that scene where they're explaining about how the DNA transfer worked? It's just the three of them, only these three. They've worked on this project together, and now we're going to explain it to each other.
Right. Yeah. Speak out loud to us to a video screen.
Sure. Yeah.
I know. It was naked exposition.
I really didn't like episode 5.
Huh. I did.
Yeah. It was the thing that kind of made me say, okay, I'm gonna keep watching this, because
me too.
previous to that I was like, if nobody else is talking about this, I'm not gonna bother.
After 4, I was still gonna watch 5 anyway, but I wasn't excited about it. But after 5, I'm looking forward to 6.
Yeah.
It just started to give you those, individual little character arcs within an episode and stuff. It's like, this is what I want to see, and this is kind of where I want to be with these characters, not too focused on one situation or hearing too much Klingon or whatever.
Yeah. No, I can understand why you would like it. I think one thing I didn't like about it, and I disliked it so much that it made me dislike the whole episode, was how they presented Michael and Saru. And I don't understand like how Saru would be, and maybe this is getting more into the character, like how he would ever be a first officer with the way he acts and just the way she treats him. So it was just their dynamics plus the way Saru acts, and it was kind of building up Michael way too much. And it seemed to push down Saru or minimize Saru to the point where I can't understand why a captain like Gabriel Lorca in the middle of a war would say, yeah, that's my first officer.
I totally agree. I was actually just about to say that I can see him easily as a first officer on a ship, but not on Lorca's ship in this timeline.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
Oh, yeah, I see.
And maybe if Lorca had signaled that and had said, well, they kind of forced this guy on me, and Burnham was going to be my de facto first officer. Doesn't have to tell the admiral that, but I mean, if he had indicated that's what his thinking was, and that he has zero respect for Saru, and somehow he was like a holdover. But I couldn't even see somebody forcing Saru on Saru.
That was what I thought they were going to do at the beginning. I've completely forgotten her name, but the security woman who got killed by the Ripper.
I thought she was okay, and then they killed her off. Yeah,
I liked her a lot, and I thought that was going to be the dynamic, that Saru was kind of the face first officer, but she was the real one who was like Lorca's second in command. And
she would clash with Michael Burnham, but clashing as equals.
Yes, that's exactly what I saw. And then she died. So
yeah,
what just happened?
You killed the wrong one.
I like Saru a lot. He's a fun character. He's interesting. Okay. I want to see where he goes and how he grows too, because he's got a lot of room to grow.